All right. Welcome. Oh my gosh, come back in. You guys, it's Lights Camera Live here for another episode. We're going to be talking about LinkedIn ads because LinkedIn ads, I feel like that's where it's at. That's where it's at. And if you are doing marketing to promote your business, your product, or your service, if you are working with clients, this is something that you have to pay attention to. I know that it's been a game changer for me and my clients. And I'm so fortunate because I have like kick-ass friends like AJ Wilcox who come on the show and they're just like, hey, well, let me show you some cool things that you should be doing. And I'm like, yes. So come through and say hello. We'll get started in just a little bit. I almost didn't start the show on time. Between you, me, the Wi-Fi, and AJ, we were geeking out in the background and I almost did not hit the go live button, but we'll get there. So come on in, say hi. Let me know where you're tuning in from, yeah? Okay. It's Thursday. That's how I know like what day of the week it is because it's like, oh, it's Thursday. I'm doing a show. Anytime I'm not doing a show, I don't have my hair done. Nothing, any of that stuff, of course. Alrighty. So having said that. Hi everyone, welcome to Lights Camera Live, where we shine a spotlight on the best and brightest marketers in the industry so that way you can take your business from unknown to unforgettable. I want to give a huge shout out to the one and the only Marie Tahan Daniels who is here. Y'all need to follow her if you're looking for someone who's going to step up your PR, your public relationships. She's here, right? Talk to her. She's obviously here. And then also big, huge shout out to the one, the only Mike Alton. Oh, wait, I have a sound effect for this. I'll find it in just a little bit, but Mike Alton is also here. Then we also have Eugene. Eugene is here and he's excited to learn about LinkedIn ads because yes, that's exactly what we're talking about today. I don't even know if you guys know this, but LinkedIn has over 200 different characteristics that you can target for their audiences. And it's been an absolute game changer, not only for me and what I do as far as getting high quality leads, but for my clients as well, which is why I am absolutely excited to bring on my guest. He's like the undisputed LinkedIn marketer, right? Like he has his own agency. Every time I reach out to him, he's like, oh yeah, I've hired someone else on my team. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm like, of course you are. Oh, of course you launched a podcast. Why wouldn't you? And I was like, wait, isn't there a book coming out? I don't know. There probably is. And P.S. by the way, I could probably introduce you someone on how to write a book. So having said that, let's bring in the amazing, the wonderful AJ Wilcox. Yay!
What's up, everyone? Burr, 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 burr.
Oh, wait, here it is. Yes! How are you, friend?
Doing great. Thanks so much for the kind intro. And Mike Alton, shout out to you, brother. Excited to see you joining us.
I feel like he gets a shout out in every show. That's what happens when you show up, right? It's like when you show up for the show, we show up for you. We give you shout outs and all of that wonderful stuff. So Eugene, Amy, Iram, the whole entire crew who's here to learn about LinkedIn ads. I feel like this is the difference that makes the difference when you are a marketer. And the reason for that is because LinkedIn in and of itself, the whole dynamic of it, the whole audience is so different. And I know, AJ, when you and I first started talking, you didn't know that I came from a paid search background, and you and I, we were just geeking out. I was like, so this is absolutely going to be a fun show. But before we get started, AJ, go ahead and do me the honors and go ahead and let them know a little bit about you, what you're working on, and just all the beautiful things that you are doing.
Cool. Well, obviously taking on way too much. It's kind of my style. But I run an ad agency called b2linked.com, and the only thing we do is LinkedIn ads, just very much one-trick ponies. But we just tripled the size of the team in the last few months, hired a CFO, a sales team, and anyway, we're off to the races, so it's exciting. We also host the LinkedIn Ads Show podcast, which is super awesome if you want to geek hard. It's a great podcast. We go really deep. And I have a book coming out, but I've also had a book coming out for the last year and a half, and I just have one more chapter left to write. So we're all going to hold me accountable. It's got to get work done.
One of my good friends, DP Knutson, he does this thing where when he writes a book, he goes live every time he's writing a chapter to hold himself accountable. And he'll do live editing while he's doing it. And anytime he missed a scheduled broadcast, people were like, hey, were you supposed to write a chapter today? So if you need accountability, my friend, I'm sure that the whole Lights Camera Live crew will be here like rooting for you, like, come on, AJ. You could do this. You could do this. So
Beautiful. That's what I need.
Yeah. So speaking of your podcast, man, that's money. Like, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm getting ready, I listen to podcasts, which reminds me, I owe you a review because I love listening to the show. I love, when I'm just in the kitchen, I'm making dinner or washing dishes or whatever it is that I have to do, but I could level up my learning at the same time because I know that if I need to know anything about LinkedIn, this is the person that you have to follow. This is the person that you need to catch up with and talk to. So, AJ, the last time that we spoke, so much has changed with LinkedIn. There's like LinkedIn stories now, right? And then you could live stream into LinkedIn events. What? I saw Judy Fox do this really cool thing because everyone's like all the rage about Clubhouse. And so since she's a LinkedIn pro, she's like, hey, LinkedIn folks, if you're on Clubhouse, here's a LinkedIn event about Clubhouse. But she leveraged the LinkedIn event to use the chat functionality, the polling functionality. And what's nice about it is that everyone that was in the Clubhouse room, now you could see all their profiles. And there's got to be some advertising hacks behind that. I'm just throwing that at you. But does that spark an idea for you?
It totally does. So the big one on my mind, for those of you who don't know, last year in 2020, LinkedIn released the ability to start doing some pretty cool retargeting. So they came out with the ability to start retargeting people who had watched certain amounts of your video ads, or if they had opened one of your lead forms or submitted it. And then just in the last little bit, they released the ability to target people who are interested in your events. So if you host an event like that, it builds this audience that then you can go and use later. And if someone shows up to an event all about accounting, you can pretty much guess that everyone in there is now a warm audience of accountants.
Ah, so smart. Okay, I'm excited. This is why I love talking to AJ, because one idea and another idea, and it's like, boom, idea baby. Ideababy.com. Somebody probably already has that. Oh gosh, what are some other exciting LinkedIn functionalities that you're super duper excited about?
The other retargeting facet that's going to be, I think, interesting, maybe along the same vein, is retargeting people who visited your company page. And I hope what comes next is retargeting people who visited your personal profile or people who've liked or commented on your posts. But I can't get too ahead of myself here. I'll be excited with whatever they give us. But anyway, if you want to comment on that one, I have one more.
No. I was just going to say, retargeting your LinkedIn profile engagement, I think that would be smart, because for me as a live streamer, even right now, I'm going live on my profile. I said that weird. I'm going live on my profile versus a page. But I do find that most people, when they engage with me, they would rather engage with me as my personal profile than my company page. So I'm like, AJ, do you have the in with the LinkedIn advertising team? Are you just like, hey, can I give you some feedback? Are you in the beta club? What's up?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Back when travel was a thing, I used to get out to San Francisco, usually about once a quarter. And every time I'm out there, schedule meetings with LinkedIn's product team to give them feedback, which was kind of my covert way of being like, hey, I want to give you ideas and I want to find out what the inside scoop is.
That's the fun part. Have you had any of the LinkedIn folks on your podcast? Do they know that you're talking about LinkedIn marketing?
Yeah, totally. I've had the head of LinkedIn's company pages and LinkedIn Live has been on twice. The head of one of the ad formats has been there. The head of the campaign manager experience has been there. So I've had a few good people.
Okay, so basically whenever AJ posts something on LinkedIn, you're going to want to look at who's commenting on his post. Because they all probably work at LinkedIn. And so if you've been waiting for that LinkedIn Live access, that's probably where you want to hang out. P.S. By the way, like any updates? You may know this, you may not know this, but with LinkedIn Live, do you know if they're doing anything new for 2021 now that like most events are going virtual?
Yeah, the last big news I heard was basically right at the beginning of COVID. They decided that LinkedIn Live was something. It was a powerful tool for people to connect at distance. So it used to be like a 3 month like apply procedure, and you got to wait and probably get denied a bunch of times. Right at the beginning of COVID, they said, "Oh, okay, if you have at least 1,000 followers on your company page and you've posted 2 or 3 videos in the last week of any kind, like that shows enough from us that seems like you're probably going to use this."
On your
And
company page?
yeah, so from company page, that's the rule. From personal profile, I would imagine it's similar, like maybe be connected or have a
Yeah.
1,000 people following. Share some video if it's just like YouTube embeds or native video or whatever. But that's what they're looking for. So,
So
and
you're,
then
so you're saying people should share your videos.
of course, yes, please do share all my stuff.
Yeah, I saw that they also rolled out the swipe up feature for LinkedIn, and then for your personal connections, you need at least 5,000. And I was like, oh, that's what I get for being so picky because I'm always like, oh, I'm very selective about who I would want to connect with on LinkedIn because back in the day, right? Yeah, back in the day, they could kind of go through your info. Like I had like some people emailing me after I made a connection, then it's like, boom, straight to my inbox. I was like, the heck? So then I was very selective, but now I'm just like, I would really, really like that swipe up feature because as we were talking about, if you're going live on your company page or to an event, you could leverage the retargeting features and functionalities, and now even with Restream, you could do a scheduled LinkedIn live, and then so the stories, my brain is like stories, swipe up, go over to the event or go over to the scheduled live broadcast, and that to me is like money. Thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I want to share a little secret for you that I think is probably going to help you out.
Okay.
If you go deep into the settings, like you got to Google it or do a lot of clicking around, but somewhere back there in LinkedIn's back end settings, there's the ability to change out the connect with me button with a follow me button.
Yes.
And
Okay.
so, yeah. And so if you're like me, who I'm ultra picky, by the way, anyone who's watching, like, please do send me a customized invite. Just be like, I heard you on Stephanie's show. I will be happy to connect with you. But basically, I'm really picky. Like, I want to know that people are connecting with me, not because it's a sales pitch. They actually want to be connected to me. So I
Yeah.
watch for those custom invites. But what I found is after switching, because I'm not going to accept the majority of the connections that come in. And so I switched out for the follow button, and I was
Yeah.
getting like hundreds of followers per week. And then it's like LinkedIn cares about the followers, not necessarily your connections. So it can be a nice little hack to still guard your personal email address, but without like having to hold back on how many people can hear when you shout.
Okay. That's super helpful. P.S. By the way, we've got like Amanda Robinson here. I need to give her a shout out. She says, "Warm audiences and retargeting. You're speaking my language." I know that she's leveling up her stuff too, because Amanda used to focus only on Facebook ads, and now she's doing Google advertising, PPC, which I'm like, you guys, paid search, like that's my world. I love that so many of my friends are dabbling into other areas because so much is happening obviously on Facebook, right? And audiences are moving to wherever they want to move. And I feel like LinkedIn is definitely one of those places where it's your online resume. People want to know who you are. And what I always tell my clients, AJ, is that when you're targeting a specific audience, you could get to the granular level. Do you want to talk about like all of the cool advertising strategies or just like the tactics of how nitty gritty you can get?
Yeah, totally. Before I do, like just jumping off of like the Facebook, Google kind of interaction train.
Yeah.
Many of you may have heard about the iOS 14 update. Basically, what's happening is cookies are going away, which means and this is probably within about 2 years. It's going to be really rare when some one platform can place ads that retarget people all over the web, and so it's super valuable to to know how to use Facebook's retargeting, because you're inside of Facebook's walled garden, which gets you
Yeah.
access to all of Facebook's whenever someone's on Facebook, on Instagram, anywhere in their ecosystem. But then the Google Display Network is on like 90% of the web. So if you get good at especially Google's retargeting all within their walled garden, you may still have some issues like with cookies of attribution, but
Yeah.
you'll be able to reach all of your warm audiences, which is incredible. So Amanda, you're going the right way, I'm sure.
She said Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, but I leave the LinkedIn ads for experts like AJ.
And I leave those ones to you. So
That's the fun part, right? Because sometimes we'll have clients that come over to us and they'll ask us about certain things, and you're like, you know what? I know someone that I can refer you to, right? And so if someone were asking me about like hardcore LinkedIn ad campaigns, I'm like, you know what? That sounds like a lot of campaigns. Talk to AJ. Because for me, I'm all about like copy paste campaigns, duplicate them, do all the things that I want to do. And I find that's generally a lot easier when I'm doing PPC campaigns on the Google side. So whatever magic you have, I'm sure you have that as well.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's amazing because if you have experience doing bulk stuff on either Facebook or Google, like with Google, you have Google Ads Editor, and in a spreadsheet you can just make like duplicates of everything, and immediately you've got thousands of campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
We were tired of LinkedIn not like letting us create more than one thing at once. So we actually created our own internal version of like Google Ads Editor for LinkedIn, and it's been one of those secret sauce elements for us to manage the really big stuff. But yeah, it's like the challenge with LinkedIn is it's 3 to 5 times the cost of Facebook on a per click basis. So we know the targeting's a lot better. You can get a better, more qualified audience. So it's definitely worth it. But it also means because it's more expensive, it's higher risk, and it means it's a little bit tougher to go, ooh, I'm going to go take a chance on this platform. So
Yeah.
we like to specialize in the hard one.
Yeah, no. I absolutely love that because I find that when you are like the expert, right, you know all the nitty gritty details of it. I mean, live streaming in general, I feel like, yes, you could push a button and go live, but if you're trying to figure out like what goes on in the Facebook ecosystem, as far as like promoting your show, I'm like, hey, that's my wheelhouse. But if you want to learn about vmix, that's toss you up over to Owen. You're like, go over there. He's got you over there. So this is why, everyone, I'm so excited when I'm able to bring on experts like AJ, because they're going to share so much with you. And so if you're loving this, by all means, go ahead and show him some love. If you haven't already, be sure to follow him on LinkedIn, because he's always dropping those gems, and it sounds like he has the connections with the LinkedIn team. So hey. So AJ, here's a quick question for you. If someone wants to learn more about advertising on LinkedIn, not necessarily where should they go, but like where should they start? Like where would you point them to first?
Okay, so I definitely have resources to point you toward, but the very first thing that I kind of want to prime your pump on is this acronym AMO. I call it ammo, but I know for ammunition it's one letter short. But it's your audience, your message, and your offer. It's the 3 things that make up every social ad campaign. And so what you want to understand is for the A audience, this is the reason why we pay LinkedIn the money that we do. It's this amazing audience targeting. The M is the message. It's basically like, hey, what ad format did you choose? And what are you going to tell them in text? What imagery or video are you going to use? And then O is the offer. And it's by far the most important piece. And it's, what is your call to action? What are you actually asking them or offering them to get them to engage with you? And way too many people go right for the kill and put an ad that says, hey, this is what we do. Click here to talk to our sales rep. But the best way by far to do it is bring them in with content, with a gated asset of some kind. Join our webinar, download this ebook, this guide, checklist, cheat sheet, whatever. And then now that they're a warm audience, follow up with them, and you'll get costs that are a 10th or a 20th of what they'd be otherwise.
I love that. So can you repeat the AMO acronym just for folks that are just logging in now? Go for it.
Yes. AMO, audience, message, and offer. So, and it doesn't matter what network. I mean, on Facebook, it's the same deal. You got to come up with the same stuff. So pre-plan before you go to a resource and actually want to start advertising. As for resources to go to, I would suggest the LinkedIn Learning course on LinkedIn Ads. I happen to be the author, and we're actually doing an update right now. So in the next 2-3 months, that one will be updated. But it's by far the least expensive way to get a really solid intro into the platform. So that's probably what I'd recommend. And the podcast, my podcast, the LinkedIn Ad Show, to go a little bit deeper. But I'll warn you. You probably want to watch the course first because we get geeky real fast.
That's what I was gonna say. Because I remember the first time you and I met, it's like when you talk about ads, sometimes you have to lay out the basic foundations, but having come from the PPC sides and knowing Facebook ads, it's like, oh, so this is where I could just map it across and it makes sense to me. For those of you that are relatively new when it comes to advertising, if that's never been in your wheelhouse, I love that you mentioned the LinkedIn Learning courses because I do feel like they're very thorough. I love the fact that people can also leave reviews, and if I'm not mistaken, you can actually have a preview of a download of one lesson at least and get a feel for it.
Yeah. I think the new policy, if I heard right, is you can watch 5 videos. And so my course is going to have 38 videos in it. So you can watch what is that, a fifth, a sixth of the course to get a feel for if you want to listen to this guy or not.
Oh, and by all means, you absolutely do because you know so much about this. When I was thinking about your bio for the show, I was reading your LinkedIn bio, of course, and it was saying that you also train agencies. You help their teams try to figure out LinkedIn ads. So it's not only they could come to you and work with you, but if you work with 4 out of the top 10 LinkedIn accounts, right? And you just hired a team to manage all this other stuff. If you can't get a hold of him, he's giving you access to his podcast, which is for free. You could go into the LinkedIn Learning course. If you wanted to learn it for yourself, then you could get training from your team. Is that right? That's so
totally. Yeah. When I started the company about 6 years ago, I had just come off of running LinkedIn's largest spending account. And I was like, man, I don't know what a specialty agency would look like. I didn't have a model for this. But I knew I love LinkedIn ads. They were so powerful for all of the testing that I had done with them. And I wanted to just share that with everyone. And the best way I could think of is have a done for you and then a coaching, training, teaching kind of service.
Do you have a done for you already done? That sounds funny.
Well, I guess the done for you really is having us manage the accounts. We can take the vast majority off people's plates, but which is nice. I always recommend it if you've got the budget for it. I mean, it starts at less than half the cost of a full-time marketer to have us run it. But when you're running it, it's there's always a ramp lead time of it's starting to understand a network, whereas we already know that for LinkedIn, so we can get you skip all of the pitfalls and stuff and
skip the guesswork. Right, yeah, that's what I love. Also being the expert for that particular niche, right? Because you know the ins and outs. If you ever get an error message, hey, I've managed all these other accounts, so I know exactly what we need to do. Or if you needed to because you've had them on your show and you're so well connected because you've actually been to the office, it's pretty much type. Here's an email. We'll get an answer for you. That's always helpful. Here's a question for you, and this is from Eugen. Eugen is asking, where can we get access to your course? So there's the LinkedIn Learning. We just go to LinkedIn Learning, right?
Yes. Yep. LinkedIn Learning. Just search for LinkedIn advertising and or LinkedIn ads, and I'm sure it'll pop up. If you're looking for the right one, it's this chubby ginger right here going like this at you. That's the right thumbnail. So and then of course in the next 2 or 3 months there'll be an updated one. Probably not with the same cool cover shot, but who knows?
I was going to ask you when LinkedIn requests that you do updates to the course, do you have to do the whole thing all over again? Because if your background changes, or let's say you dyed your hair blue, what do you do? Do you just only film the sections that were updated, or do you do the whole course all over again?
Yeah, we dove in initially thinking we were just going to update a few of the videos that had changes. And I went through the whole course and was like, ooh, this is different. This is different. This has changed. This is new and exciting. And they were eventually like, sounds like a whole new course. Okay, let's start from the ground up. But hopefully, we're building it in a way right now that's very modular, where as LinkedIn comes out with one new ad format, it's like we go and change 2 videos, like add a new one and reshoot. So we'll see.
I love that. I love that. When someone decides to work with you for the done for you, what's the best way to get them ramped up easily? Like, what should they hand over to you? Like, here's my audience. This is who I'm going to target for. Here's my message. Like, what usually you're just like, okay, I'm going to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. For audience, it's really helpful for us to have like, hey, here's a few links to people's LinkedIn profiles that we think are the perfect customer for us. And then we can go and research what skills they have, what groups they're members of, job titles, geographies, all of that. And so we can start to define the A audience.
Yeah.
The M, the message, it's really helpful if you have run on other channels where you're like, hey, here's the messaging that worked best on Facebook. We can appropriate that for LinkedIn. Here's video, here's imagery that worked really well. And for offers, it can be anything that's worked before, or you can come up with something brand new. The goal is just like, hey, this target audience, what keeps them up at night? What can you provide them that they will be so insanely excited about that they're willing to give up their first name, last name, email for?
Willing to give up their first name, last name, email for. I love that. Do you ever find that a client will give you an ad that was successful on Facebook, and then they say, can we run this on LinkedIn? You're like, might not work just because of LinkedIn's ecosystem or just the behavior that you see on LinkedIn. Is there anything that you usually change or that you recommend?
Well, the biggest difference is that like on LinkedIn, people are in a hurry. They are on their way to go do something. They're on a mission. And so they don't have much time. And so if you've run ads on Facebook, chances are you've found long form copy to work really well. And so sometimes clients will come to us and they'll be like, hey, here's this like long form post and with emojis and everything in it. And this has worked really well. And we look at it and go, awesome, thanks. When we go to appropriate this for LinkedIn, we're going to chop it from 600 characters down to like 135. But generally, if your targeting is pretty good across both networks, similar kinds of messaging are going to work. It's catching people in a little bit different of a mindset, but hopefully it's the same right people.
I love when you were talking about audience and how you drilled into like what their skill set is and their interest, because I feel like most of the people that I talk to, even at like conferences, remember when we used to go to conferences? They would be like, these are the companies that I'm looking for, right? And I even remember during the last time when you were on the show and you were talking about don't just shoot for titles like CEO or founder, because company size is a big, huge factor. Because you could be a CEO of company of one versus CEO of like 500 employees. Like really get into the granular level of that. And I find that when you walk them through that, especially when you told me that, I was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Because I don't think you can actually do that on Facebook. Is that right? Can you go by like company size, or you can't even?
They used to offer it. I don't think they do anymore, but they gave us like job title and company size and office type for a while. And so we did a whole bunch of testing and just basically found out like it's garbage. Like you focus on companies of a certain size and start measuring the leads, and they're coming from all over. So Facebook just doesn't know what's really going on in people's professional lives, but LinkedIn is the place that they come and put that info. So it's much more, I guess, accurate.
What would you say is like the mindset of the LinkedIn audience? Because I could just share a couple of things that we've seen in our campaigns, because we usually target like human resources professionals and lawyers, because one of my clients does sexual harassment prevention training. So that's kind of like our world. And we find that particular audience, that's what they're interested in on LinkedIn. They're looking for training for their employees versus like going through Facebook in the news feed, right? And I don't find it's very often that, because we've done the research for like HR on like Facebook groups, and there's SHRM and whatnot, but I feel like the mindset of a LinkedIn user, in my experience, is that they're there for business. They're there to do B2B. And so what are your thoughts on that? Like, what kind of things have you picked up over the years because, you're working with the top agencies or top companies at this point?
Yeah, we find exactly what you mentioned. When people are on LinkedIn, they're in the right mindset. They're thinking about their job, their career, their teams, their employees, and it just so happens that most of the advertisers on LinkedIn are B2B. They're going after you based off of what you're looking for. So you're catching them in just the right mindset. It's a little tougher to guess where someone's head is at when they're on Facebook, because it's very much I would call it an educate or not an educational, much more of like a um, man, words. They're so hard.
I know, right? It's like it's Thursday. I feel
Yeah.
like Facebook, you're like, I mean, I could just say from my experience. Usually I'm on Facebook, and I know these days I have to be very protective of my time because I'm juggling so much. And so I go in for my group, I go into Messenger to talk with friends, and then I go on my page, and then I'm out. I'm not really in the news feed as much unless I like need a new macronutrient recipe. But other than that, I try to stay away from it because I don't know like what subliminal messages are going to come at me, and I want to stay in a good mood.
The audience on Facebook that is like right there in the news feed, they're looking for entertainment. Like a lot of times it's just mindless scrolling. Like they had a long hard day of work and now they're just looking for entertainment. So sometimes you're competing with like cat memes. Sometimes you're competing with like groups for sure. Playing Farmville, like it's all over the board.
I feel like I've been skipping the Facebook newsfeed because of all the Clubhouse announcements. And I was cracking up because one of my good friends, Kelly Noble Mirabella, she's not on Clubhouse, but I think she just got fed up about hearing about it. So she's like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create a Facebook Messenger room, and we'll have all of our cameras off and we'll just talk.
Imagine, this has never been done before.
But it was just funny to hear, what's going on in this space. Yeah, 2021 is just full of surprises, but I just like you, I like to have like my basic foundations. Like I know Google's not going away, right? Google's not going away. LinkedIn, Microsoft, y'all are good, right? So I would, put stuff in there. Facebook advertising, I feel like that's a given if you're going to be in the social media marketing space, and understanding that. What would you say are things that you're looking forward to for LinkedIn adding this year?
I'm crossing my fingers hoping. There are a few table stakes that LinkedIn's still missing. Yeah, I've been using the platform now for like, I don't know, 10 years or more. And right at the very beginning, like they were missing some crucial stuff like conversion tracking and anyway, things like that. What they're still missing is the ability to time your ads, basically day parting and ad scheduling. Yeah. Everyone else can do that. On LinkedIn, you can't. So we built our own tool to let us do that. But what a lot of people don't know, and this is like actually like really poisonous if you're like just hopping into LinkedIn ads for the first time, the time, the clock on it it's based in UTC time zone. And so if you're West Coast or near West Coast US, like we are, it's like 6 or 7 p.m. when the new day on LinkedIn ad starts.
Yeah.
So if you have let's say you have a small budget kind of campaign, what happens is you hit your budget for the day, and then at 6 or 7 p.m. our time, the next day starts. And so you're spending from like 6, 7 p.m. Through midnight, through 6 a.m. And a lot of times your budget is gone by the time that people are actually getting into the office and are awake. Like you're spending all your money on the folks who can't sleep. So
maybe that's a good thing, because you remember back in the day when it's like when you couldn't sleep at night and we would all watch like the infomercials, and it's like you really need this, like, what was the thing? He would
Miracle
put it in the
Mop.
washer. Yeah.
Connive.
What was it, like music now? And it's like all the 90s music and all that stuff, and you're just like, well, I'm just like buying it. I mean, that could be a good thing. Maybe that is strategic. It's like It's the CEOs, the CMOs that can't go to sleep at night because they're trying to find a solution. Who knows? Who knows? Who
Who
knows,
knows?
right?
Maybe they're kept up at night because we have the solution for them.
Correct. Correct. So hey, if you're if you have questions about LinkedIn advertising, I mean, now is honestly the time to ask AJ these questions because literally before we started the show, I was like, hey, can you hop on and you will just do a quick tech check, which is like typical of live streamers. And he's like, I'm going to be on a sales call, so I'll show up when I do. I'm like, okay, you are busy. You've hired a team. You've done all this wonderful stuff. So this is really for you to ask those questions about LinkedIn advertising because I find that it's so helpful when you understand at least the basics of it. And if you understand a little bit about the targeting, the AMO, the ammo, right? And then knowing someone like AJ and then you could refer clients over to him, then it makes it a lot easier. You just got love from Kendra. Kendra's like, AJ, Stephanie, favorite people in one place.
Love you,
Yes.
Kendra. You rock.
Well, so speaking of Kendra, because Kendra is like the go-to marketing expert as far as the CBD market space. And I last week I had announced, hey, Facebook live shopping is a thing, and then someone emailed me back and they were like, well, what about CBD? Can we sell CBD on a Facebook live stream? And I was like, I don't think so because of Facebook's community guidelines. And so I reached out to Kendra and she confirmed. But I don't know what those guidelines are like on LinkedIn. Is that a thing? Like how strict are they?
Yeah, it depends. We've actually gotten. We were running ads for a, uh, a, a a pharmacy school that specialized in marijuana and CBD, and like we actually got an ad approved that was just like straight up a pot leaf with like text on there, and so they didn't have a problem with that. Just looks like foliage apparently. um, we've had some get disapproved because they mention alcohol or they mention any sort of drug. So it's probably going to be a little bit of a like test and see, and
Yeah.
because all of LinkedIn's ads are approved by a human, so something as subjective as like what you're talking about or what your business is, if you get disapproved, just try 6 hours later on someone else's shift and see what happens.
Yeah. Here's another question for you. This is from Lyndon. Lyndon, thanks for swooping in. He says, you may have covered this already. You haven't. It's what's the best method for top of the funnel cold campaigns? And I remember last time you were on the show, there's like, oh, there's this stuff you could do on the side. You could do this. What is your best method right now for top of the funnel campaigns to like getting people pulled in?
Yeah, well, here's the real challenge with LinkedIn is because it's priced like a bottom of the funnel platform, but the traffic that you're getting is top to middle of funnel, just depending on your brand. And so what we've done is like, okay, it doesn't make sense to go right for the kill with with a LinkedIn ad. You're paying for that kind of thing, but people just aren't ready for it. So I kind of treat all audiences on LinkedIn like they're top of funnel. And but I don't want to send traffic and pay LinkedIn's like $8 to $12 a click to blog posts and stuff to try to warm them up. It's really hard to make the ROI work. So what I love doing is come up with something that is really valuable to your audience, something that they just would clamor for, and educational content, and then make it behind a lead form. So it's gated. That means you as the marketer, you're getting people showing you with contact info that they're interested in what you're doing, and so you can tell what you're doing is working. But it's also light enough touch. It's not like, ooh, hop on the phone with sales or buy something now, that a lot of people are going to be willing to do. So that's kind of my cheat, is like hop to the middle of the funnel rather than spending a bunch of money at the top, and just provide enough value that people are willing to jump right to the middle.
That's good advice. See, so Lyndon, see what happens when you hop on the show and ask your questions? Yes! Wait, sound effects. That was a good one. That was a good one. AJ, it's so much fun having you on the show because we could geek out so much. I'm curious, tell me about this last chapter of your book that you're still trying to write. What is it about? Is it like the recap of everything?
No, I think the recap would be pretty straightforward and easy. The one I'm having troubles with is not having troubles with. Like I can talk for years about it, but it's LinkedIn's objectives. And the hard part about it is LinkedIn has an objective that they'll call something, but it's not
Hmm.
actually the best objective for that thing. So, for instance, if you choose the objective conversions because you're like, yeah, of course I want people to convert, you may miss one of the best converting tools on LinkedIn, which is their native lead gen forms. So and other things like if you're bidding for conversions, there's a lot of people there also who are bidding for conversions. So you bid each other up, it gets more competitive, and then you realize, LinkedIn doesn't really have all that much data on people. So trying to find the people who are likely to convert, maybe it's not like maybe I should just send website visits traffic. So that's what I'm working on is the best way to like handle that and not make enemies at LinkedIn.
That's what, yeah, right. I hear you on that, especially in the live streaming world because there's so many different platforms and there's pros and cons to each. Usually, when someone asks me publicly about something, I'm like, I'll send you a DM. But you're gonna put it in a book. Yeah, okay, I could definitely see your dilemma. Yes,
Yeah,
friend.
it's a tough one.
Yes, friend. So when is this book coming out?
Oh man,
Do you have a date? Do you have like a deadline?
I don't. I've been telling people, oh yeah, like 3 months from now for the last year. So basically, it needs about 40 more pages written and then 40 more pages edited. And now that I've hired a sales team, so all the sales is off my plate, I'm
Good.
anticipating I'm actually going to have time to do stuff like this.
That sounds awesome. I was just talking to my good friend Amanda Robinson about this too because she incorporated her business this month and she's doing all the things. And I think there's always when you're scaling your agency, at some point you really have to let go of the finer details so that way you could focus on the bigger projects. I love using the metaphor of my daughter when she lost her baby teeth, right? Funniest thing happened. It happened during like her Microsoft Teams for school, and she was like playing with it, and then she goes, "Whoa, my teeth fell out!" Right? And so there's like this bloody tooth, and I'm like, "Oh snap!" And then she goes, "Mommy, why does our baby teeth come out?" And I was like, "Oh, baby, like sometimes you have to get rid of the small things so that way you can make room for the bigger things." So you are getting rid of your baby teeth so you can work on this good stuff. And I love you for that. If you were to give someone advice on scaling their agency, right? What would that advice be?
Oh, for me, and obviously I'm 6 years in, and I'm finally just getting away from founder sales. So you may not want to listen to me, but the best thing that I can think of is like me as a founder. I love being in LinkedIn ads. I love doing them, and then the larger I grow my agency, the less I'm actually in the platform. So like basically prepare yourself for that. Prepare yourself for the fact that you're going to be a little bit distanced from your topic, but
Yeah.
don't lose your expertise entirely. Like you always have to stay in there, and you got to be okay, like giving up your baby sometimes. Like be be ready to say, oh, I know someone else can't do this quite as well as I can, but if they're 90% of the way there, like that saves me all the time. So that's my biggest advice for anyone.
That's very true. And shout out to Kendra. Kendra says AJ and his team are amazing to work with. So look at you getting some testimonials on the show. That's amazing right there. Before I let you go, for those of you that are tuning in and you're like, should I ask my question? Now is the time, okay? Because as soon as I let him go, trust me, he has a long waiting list of amazing people that want to line him up for his podcast and work with him directly. So before we do the last closing of the questions, I want to give a big, huge shout out to Restream because Restream is what we're using to broadcast the show on multiple platforms. So if you don't know, we're on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, we are on YouTube, and we're even on Twitter. And so it's so amazing to have that feature and that functionality. And I think it was Eugene that was asking, he was just like, how are you able to do this? And I was like, yes, it's Restream. That's exactly how I do that. So here's a quick little spiel on what it looks like and what it does. Your bridge to live streaming across all platforms has arrived. Restream takes care of the bandwidth and processing so you can focus on getting maximum visibility on your favorite platforms. To learn more, head on over to restream.io. Simple. Makes it super duper freaking easy. And so if you've been wondering about LinkedIn ads because, hey, maybe you spent so much of your budget on Facebook and you're just like, what can I do differently this year to get different results? Because I feel like that's the thing that most people don't realize is that the problem that you're in right now, you can't use the same mindset, the same strategy that got you into that dilemma. So you have to look outside. And so maybe that's an opportunity for you to really talk to someone like AJ. And he said that there are definitely things that you could do. Go to his website, b2linkedin.com.
Oh, B2 linked.
b2linkedin.com.
I couldn't have LinkedIn in my URL.
I know. I was like, okay, so b2linked.com, he has a podcast, and you're putting out episodes every week?
Every week?
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Took a little bit of a break when I had a knee surgery, but now I'm back.
So AJ and I have been talking about, what do you call that? Like lower body injuries? I guess you would
Yes.
say. Man, those suck.
Yeah.
Those suck and they slow you down. That's for sure. That's definitely a mindset thing too, because you want to hit the ground running and whatnot. But I will say that I definitely learned. I learned how to tone my arms in a wheelchair. Right. I had like a flashy cane. Do you remember? Yeah, you remember me at Social Media Marketing World. I had like my little scooter.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And not to mention, you had the coolest story. You like, was it your ankle or your leg or something? But you broke it kickboxing. Like that, so much cooler than I came home hiking one day and the next morning I woke up and it hurt real bad.
Is that what happened?
Was it? Yeah. One time I sprained my ankle really bad, and it was because I was at a parkour class. Like, I'm definitely like the oldest and fattest guy in this parkour class, but I was like, oh, no one knows I'm here. This is fun. Like, I'm learning, and sure enough, I hurt my ankle and couldn't run for like 6 months on it.
You know, to me, what that sounds like, right? I'm just going to reframe this for you. Is that to me, it sounds like AJ is a really fun and amazing human being. Because don't you have like your own go-kart?
Yes. I do. I ride a go-kart around my neighborhood. Yeah, it's fun.
See, you and I would absolutely be friends. If you were here in San Diego, back in the day when we were able to go outside, we have like this trampoline park by my house. And yeah, it was like the best way to get my daughter to like release all her energy because she could literally bounce off the walls. And like, you just go bounce over there. You do all this fun stuff. It's good.
That's where it's at. Never grow up, people. Just like have fun doing the kid stuff all the time.
Absolutely. So again, if you guys are interested in learning more about AJ, right? He's already given you the open invitation to follow him on LinkedIn. Do you have a code word if people did want to actually connect with you? I always tell them mine's Big Lou. If you say Big Lou, I know you're cool.
Ooh, that's awesome. I would just say Stephanie Lou or just say Stephanie and I'll get it. Like we'll connect.
Okay.
Yeah, I am the president of the Stephanie Lou fan club. Like, if you want to go sign up at StephanieLouFanClub.com, check it out. I actually don't own that domain, but I need to.
I know, and I was gonna say too. I was like, "And P.S. By the way, if someone crazy like messages you and says that they knew me, like, not my fault, because this goes everywhere." But AJ,
Stephanie, I'm holding you accountable for every connection who comes to me from your show. Everyone.
Crazy connections. They're coming now. Sorry, my bad. I've had some cray crays.
Oh,
whatever.
I believe it.
Okay. AJ, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Eugen is saying that he's already sent you a message and he's mentioned my name. So Eugen, don't be a cray cray. No cray crays. Amanda started legit Googling Stephanie Lou fan. I think I have to like buy that now. Did you know that the .club domain is like skyrocketing now because of Clubhouse? Yeah, oh. Molly was saying, so Molly and I, every Thursday she has her live video club in there. It's like me, Loria, Fanzo, and the rest of the crew. And she's like, everyone needs to get their .club domain because Clubhouse is like obviously blowing up. So I tried to look for Stephanie.club, which PS, by the way, sounds kind of weird because I was like, this is like Anyway. Anyway, we'll see what we're going to end this now so that way I could just hang out with AJ because I'm just having too much fun.
I will go to the Stephanie Club. I'm not a great dancer, but I'll try.
We'll go in with our scooters and arcades, AJ. Like, you know. Lower injury crew. Okay. All right.
Arms can go crazy because legs can't.
I love that.
I heard a real laugh above that laugh track. That was great.
That was perfect timing. But oh my god, I'm crying. See, this is how much I love AJ. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Absolutely appreciate you. We're gonna end the show. If you haven't already, follow AJ, get to know him because he is the go-to expert. He's writing a freaking book, you know. So you're all gonna wait for it. And P.S. By the time when you write your book, come back on. I would love to have you.
Deal.
All right, friends.
Beautiful.
All right, say bye, AJ. Bye.
Bye, everyone.